Hey y'all, AB on AB, and we find ourselves now at the old Magnolia church site. This was the main line that Brigadier General Martin Green set up his brigade along. He had his pickets down the Rodney Road towards the Schaefer house, where we just stopped a moment ago, and those pickets intercepted McClernand's lead elements of the divisions of Hovey and Carr as they marched down this road toward Port Gibson. Once those pickets exchanged fire around midnight, Greene came back to his main line to ready his soldiers that were based on this ridge. And it's hard to see, I'm down in the roadbed itself, but the ridge is here on each side of the road, and I'm going to walk to a place in just a moment and just show you that ridge line. But this is also a good shot of what the original Rodney Road looked like. It relatively unchanged in over 160 years here. And so Greene sets up his defense line here at the Magnolia Church. And so early after the initial run in with the pickets around midnight, the Union Army lead elements advance this point, at which point Martin Greene's brigade opens fire on them, and they retreat in this direction back towards the Schaefer house to await first light and to bring up the rest of the 13th Corps. As the divisions of Hovey and Carr come up, the assault begins the next morning. And so it comes down this road. Martin Greene is overwhelmingly outnumbered, as he has one solitary brigade facing off of two divisions. The things that are helping Martin Greene are obviously the terrain. Thick vegetation in these ravines makes the Union advance slow and confused, and so Martin Greene's brigade is able to hold them for quite some time. Off to my right in this direction is another advance of the Union's 17th Corps under General James McPherson. Now, McPherson is new to Corps Command here at Vicksburg, and he doesn't perform all that well, but he has some experienced division commanders, and one of those is Osterhaus's division, and he is in the lead. And so Osterhaus takes the lead, and he's advancing along the other road to the north. Caught in that pincher-like movement, Martin Greene realizes he's not going to be able to hold out here, and he's going to have to retreat in the face of overwhelming numbers. John Bowen comes up from Grand Gulf, as I said earlier. He takes overall command here on the field, and Bowen again quickly realizes in order to save the men that he's got, he's going to have to pull out of here, and he does so. And so the night of May 1st finds Port Gibson in the hands of the Union Army. Now, you may have read or heard it quoted that Port Gibson was a city too beautiful to burn, and so Grant left it alone. There's no account that was ever said or written by Grant, but it makes for a good story, and the city of Port Gibson has used it to their advantage, and that's what is painted or displayed on their signs around town. As you enter into Port Gibson, it says a city too beautiful to burn. I've been to Port Gibson several times, and I would debate that very thing. Now, there are some beautiful antebellum homes in Port Gibson, but it is not the nicest community that I've ever been to. And so while you will be safe in Port Gibson, there's not much here. There's nowhere to really stay in Port Gibson. If you come to Vicksburg and want to take a look at the Vicksburg campaign, and this is the Magnolia Ridgetop, I'm just showing you kind of what it looks like. Again, the ridges would have been open and cultivated during that time period, so you wouldn't have as many trees up here on the ridgetop itself. But if you're looking to come to study the Vicksburg campaign, I recommend that you stay in Vicksburg. You could even stay centrally in Jackson. Plenty of options there. You will have the battlefields at Raymond to check out, the Champion Hill battlefield that the National Park Service has just taken over within the last year or so. So I don't know what exactly, I haven't been out there, so I don't know what exactly they've done to this point. You have, of course, the battlefield at Vicksburg, the The battlefield itself at Vicksburg is an incredible battlefield. If you've never been to it, you need to put that on your bucket list, and you need to get out here. It's considered the art park of the world, in that, you know, if you've been to Gettysburg and you've seen all the monuments there, and there are tons, Vicksburg tops that as far as the artistic nature of the monuments and the sculptures. It's extremely well done. Now, we have just the lowest soil is what is the soil is known here in this area of the country, and that soil erodes and causes issues. And so just in the last 5 years or so, much of the roads through the park, or at least half the park, have eroded and washed away. And so just now, recently, in the last couple of months, the federal government has allotted funds for those roads to begin repair. And so hopefully in 2026, that repair work will be done, and all portions of the park will be accessible to vehicles. I think they'd even close some of the portions to foot traffic. And so you couldn't even see most of the Union lines at that point. And so it was kind of disappointing and frustrating when you come up here, or you plan a journey, if you didn't know that, and you would experience some disappointment. You could still see a large majority of the park, but you couldn't see some of the stuff that you might have wanted to see. The USS Cairo is located at the battlefield at Vicksburg. That is the gunboat that was sunk by a Confederate torpedo, which was just simply a mine that was placed in the river. And that was discovered, I believe, in the 1950s, and by Ed Bars and another gentleman. And I believe that was Warren Graybow who wrote a book on the Vicksburg battle and campaign. It was discovered. They finally pulled it up. It sat down in Biloxi or somewhere on the coast, kind of wasting away in the weather. Eventually, they got the funds to get it back to Vicksburg and restore it. It is an incredible site, as it's been fairly restored to its wartime purposes. Not a complete gunboat, but it gives you the idea of the size and the magnitude of that invention, and it's worth seeing, because there's nowhere else you can see something like that. You can still see where the torpedo ripped into the hull, and it's a worthwhile. That alone makes the trip worthwhile if you've not seen the gunboat USS Cairo. Now, as Martin Green's brigade retreats back down the road towards the city of Port Gibson, is going to again be a ridgetop to ridgetop fight. And so the Union troops are going to advance ridgetop to ridgetop, and there's going to be one last stand around Bayou Pierre that we're going to check out here in just a minute. And that's when Bowen's guys come up, Francis Cockrell and some other brigades from Bowen's division. They're going to come up. The Confederates do not have any corps here at the Vicksburg campaign. They only have divisions. Those divisions are under John Bowen. You have, in my mind, Loring, William Wing Loring, and you've got S.D. Leake in command at Chickasaw Bayou, and eventually he returns to brigade command when his division commander gets on the scene, and I'm drawing a blank, which is embarrassing. But so you have no corps here for the Confederate Army. They are operating on a division command structure. The Union Army is under 3 corps. The 13th Corps, led by John McClernand, the 15th Corps, led by William Sherman, and the 17th Corps, led by James McPherson, all under the overarching command of Ulysses S. Grant. And the Confederates are under the overall command of John Pemberton. Now, Pemberton is a Pennsylvanian by birth. He's married to a Southern woman, and so when the Virginia secedes, he decides to go with his wife's native state. And many Confederates, many people in the South do not trust John Pemberton simply because he's not a Southerner. He's born in Pennsylvania, but he is a personal friend of Jefferson Davis. And so while Pemberton starts off the war in the East, I think he's in the Army of Northern Virginia during the 7 days, he finds his way out west eventually, and you know what that means. There's ways for Robert E. Lee to kind of shuffle off leaders that weren't quite as good. And so Pemberton finds himself out west, and because he's the personal friend of Jeff Davis, he finds himself in command at Vicksburg. Now, Joseph Johnston is his theater commander, and Joseph Johnston has a different philosophy for what Pemberton should do out here. Jefferson Davis wants Pemberton to hold Vicksburg at all costs. Joseph Johnston wants Pemberton to preserve his army as a fighting force. And so Pemberton is caught between a rock and a hard place. What do you do when your overall commander-in-chief, Jefferson Davis, says one thing and your theater commander tells you another? And so Joseph Johnston repeatedly gives Pemberton poor orders, conflicting orders throughout the campaign. Joseph Johnston, once again, doesn't want to have a defeat on his record, and so I think he kind of manages to avoid Pemberton and get involved with Pemberton's army, and he doesn't really help him out. And so Pemberton's left on his own here, and while he's not the greatest commander, he makes plenty of mistakes. I think he's trying to do the best he can in a difficult situation. But, you know, the result on July 4th, he surrenders the city of Vicksburg, and even until recently, the city did not celebrate the 4th of July. And of course, Pemberton is vilified because he's a Pennsylvanian by birth. And I think he ends the war as an artilleryman. And he's left the infantry service, and I think he's a captain or something of artillery after he'd been a major general in infantry. So his star falls hard and fast, but he manages to somehow stay in the fight until the end. So we'll pick up with the last stand of the Confederate line in just a few minutes.